Welcome back to Bluebaggers Edge. What a frustrating predicament. It's, if it's almost a case of one step forward, two steps back, because we find ourselves back in the same situation that we were before we faced the Cats, before we faced North Melbourne, and before we faced West Coast. We've regressed all the way back to where we were at the start of the season. Same issues and, just panic disposals, not using the ball cleanly. What happened to, the form that we had captured of our efficient kicking inside 50? The regression is just, you can't put, any sort of logic behind it. You can't attach any, explanation. There's no reason why the performance that we had against the Crows came to pass. Really, at the end of the day, what we'd built in terms of the improvements, consistency across the previous 3 games just whittled away to nothing. And I'm going to deep dive now into stats, and you would have seen in the preview of this game, I deep dived into stats, and we should have performed the way that the Crows did, yet we did the opposite. And I outlined a couple of big stats here. And before I want to deep dive into what transpired against the Crows, I just want to draw attention back to the preview that I'm just referring to here. If you haven't seen it, check it out. The last 5 or so minutes of the video there, where I actually went through and outlined areas of the game that we actually trumped them in over the past 5 games. And one of those was in terms of the score sources that we were giving up to opposition teams. And we actually conceded the second least scores, or second least amount of scores, via turnover. Compare it to the Crows, and they actually conceded the 6th most to opposition teams via turnover. And what happened on the day was the opposite. It flipped. Somehow, some way, which again, a lot of it was due to, poor performance in the engine room, which again should have been an area that I outlined that we were dominant in compared to the Crows. And they flipped the script. They got a whole heap of scores off turnovers, whereas we just didn't get really any scores via turnovers. So what we'd seen there, and as you can see it on screen there, I'm just highlighting it there. It's that column that says turnovers. And really, going off that, you would have thought that, again, the performance the Crows had was the performance that we should have had against them. Statistically, that is what the script was reading. But obviously what we delivered on the day was anything but. It was the complete opposite. So let's have a look now in terms of just that breakdown. And you can see it here plain as day. Score sources for the Crows. They had 7 goals via turnover and 7 goals via stoppage as well, which again was an area of the ground that we were dominant in. And the stats and the script that the stats were kind of indicating was going to occur was the opposite. And they absolutely smashed us in the engine room. Sure enough, we got 4 of our total 7 goals via the stoppage. We got 3 via turnover, but it just wasn't good enough. It comes down to lack of pressure, lack of structure. There were so many times where, on transition, where the Crows, to their credit, forced a turnover, and we were just scrambling, looking around like, oh, where am I supposed to be? What player am I supposed to be manning up on? And it just makes me just question, like, what are they doing? What are they doing at training? Captain's run, the main training session. They should be training to this, training to the, exposing these deficiencies that I outlined in the preview video. Didn't happen. So let's just go through ever so quickly the stats of the game. And of course, the scoreline reads 16-14, 110 the Crows, to Carlton 7-8, 50. So a 60-point drubbing. I thought it was actually at the very least going to be a tight tussle, a close game. And I thought the Crows might have forced us into, playing like they have deficiency-wise, which is kind of what they did. They forced turnovers. They really went back to basics. And they kind of read the playbook of what the earlier encounters that we had in 2025 showed us up for, really, which was when manic pressure is applied, we go to water. And they did just that. So to their credit, they got the chocolates, but let's go through and you can see here massive discrepancy in disposals. A lot of those as well would have been uncontested, which I'll get to in a moment, just without having looked at the stats, just from what I saw on the game. But 380 to 311 just is not good enough, allowing the team to really use the footy as much as they did. It just falls short of expectations and KPIs. Inside 50s, another big discrepancy there, 58 to 36. And I think the defense were really, off their feet through the fault of the middle section of our ground. And again, our forward line as well, not trapping in the ball enough, lack of pressure, lack of tackles. And it gets back to that basic, pillar of playing footy from week to week. And it was something that I thought that we'd got back to basics with and really honed our craft over the previous 3 weeks, especially against the Cats in a quality opponent. And it just fell away. And some reason we just didn't recapture that form in that specific area. So 58 inside 50s to 36, just not good enough. Conceding that many is just piss poor. 58 inside 50s, and they're able to have 30 scoring shots as well, which is over 50%. So they are absolutely smashing us there in terms of converting inside 50s to scoring opportunities. We had 15 scoring opportunities from 36 inside 50s. So that's well below 50% compared to the Crows. Again, just inefficiency inside 50. Disposal efficiency overall was below par, as you can see there, 73.3 to 80%. Efficiency inside 50, just speaking to that, as you can see, 41.7% to the Crows, 53.4%. Free kicks, it is what it is, much for muchness. Stoppages, we got absolutely smashed. And it's funny to think that when I spoke about it in the preview video of this game, that I really thought that TDK would run Riley O'Brien ragged in the ruck and around the ground as well. Didn't happen. TDK had a really off game, and I likened it to Cherry playing up against Goldstein. I thought that he just would have had that, extra mileage in his legs, that extra aerobic capacity to really stretch Riley O'Brien. Didn't happen, and we got trounced in the ruck. And part of that reason as to why our midfield really struggled was off the back of this as well. But not wholly, but it was a big reason. Clearances 38 to 30. Again, speaking to that, just not good enough. We actually did, to our credit, pretty well, considering that we did lose quite a lot in the hitouts, that for our engine room to the midfielders to really get as many clearances as they did. I guess that's a positive. Moving down to possession side of things. Uncontested possessions, as I spoke about earlier, 255 to 192. Well above their season average, as you can see there. And we were well below our season average. Not good enough. Turnovers, about par, just below par for us. Whereas the Crows, they were well below par for them. Another big issue, marks. You look at that, and that really paints the picture of allowing a team to take as many marks as they did, with 26 in their favour compared to us. It just speaks to a lack of accountability, lack of pressure, and lack of defensiveness across the ground in the 3 tiers, defence, midfield, and forward. Marks inside 50, again, just didn't stack up. Position-wise, defensively, not good enough. And the inability of the midfield to really put the clamps down, and again, not enough pressure applied. We allowed the midfielders to really stream forward and hit up these marking targets inside 50 for the Crows. Contested marks, another big one, 17 to 9, almost doubled us. So really, they led from start to finish, go to woe. Surprisingly, tackles, we actually won that stat, 10 more than them, but it's not about winning that. It's about applying as many tackles as you can. Like, that's on them. If they're below their season average, that is on them. But have a look at that. We may have won the number of tackles side by side, but we were well below our season average. 20 tackles below our season average. Not good enough. We should have been double. If they want to go and they want to set that as their KPI, 36 compared to their season average of 57.5, that's on them. We should have doubled that. If we would have doubled that, we would have, prevented as many goals as what we conceded and at least cause a bit more of a contest. Tackles inside 50, well below par. Half. Actually, more than half. And that really that speaks numbers, speaks volumes across the board, all those stats there. Score origins, as you can see there on screen. Centre bounce, quite even across the board. They got 5 out of defence, 6 in the forward half, and 5 in the middle. Our lowest area of the ground that we were able to get scores from was in the middle, in the centre bounce. So again, speaks to just that, that middle part of our ground, our engine room, not pulling their weight. Not pulling their weight at all. Let's have a look at the player ratings. Jordan Dawson killed us. Streaming forward and kicking goals. You just can't let him do that. That's a really big part of his game that he thrives on. So I can't recall who was manning him up, but whoever was on him, defensively, not good enough. Look at this, just littered with crows. I just want to scroll down for a moment here. And I don't want to really be like a broken record, but it's the same culprits. You can kind of forgive Harry. He wasn't getting the service that is required to kick the number of goals that were required from him. But he was below par. But Sam Doherty, I'm sorry, Doc. Where was he? I was looking for him during the game. I'm like, where is he? He was brought in as that senior head, as that senior body, with that leadership, that experience, the sort of person that you want to stand up when the pressure is being applied by the opposition, when they were getting multiple goals back to back to back to back. He was nowhere to be seen. I'm sorry, Doc. I love you as a player and, even better bloke as well, but I'm sorry. The game has passed you by. There was a question mark. It's now a third of the way through the season, and he's had a run in the VFL to find form. He's come back, has not responded. I expect to see him out of the team. I'm sorry. You hate to say it because he's such a good player across the journey. He's been a great leader, but the game has passed him by, unfortunately, due to the number of injuries he's had. This bloke here, Jesse Motlop, I can't recount the number of times that I've mentioned this bloke as one of our culprits when we've had a down game. When we've actually won, he's looked good. But what that indicates to me is he's the sort of player that we could almost apply the label, and it's a harsh label, but I'll apply it. He's a front runner. He's the sort of player that only stands up when the team is going well. And, you can apply it to a number of players, I think, not just Jesse, but it just comes up time and again, and it's now becoming a consistent thing for Jesse, unfortunately. And 6 disposals. You got to run through the middle as well, 20% CBAs. Pressure acts. Not good enough. Tackles, 1. What happened to the Jesse Motlop we saw against the Cats, against North, when he was getting those tackles, when he was having some pretty high pressure acts? Not good enough. Corey Durden, he can hold his head high. And again, I will stand by what I've said previously. He is our answer to our small forward woes. And unfortunately, I don't think Jesse is. We've got to make the harsh calls come the end of the year. And it may be premature, but I've said it. I've mentioned his name too often now for me to ignore. And the pressure is on for him because he could find himself not just out of this team from week to week, but off the list. So he needs to really pull his socks up. But, there's a number of guys across the board just did not perform well. Didn't do enough. So, we can nitpick, we can pinpoint things. And I wish that I wouldn't have a copyright strike against me. Not a strike per se, but it is flagged if I use highlights. And I try to do it, against North Melbourne in the North Melbourne review, so I won't attempt that again because it's just way too hard. But there are areas that you can see. If you go through, watch back the replay, not that you really want to, but it's the way that we set up at stoppages. Again, when we turn over the ball, we find ourselves lacking. Two-way running is just not there. But it's just that consistency. That's all I asked for after the Cats game. I thought we'd finally found it. And when I jumped on the chat with Terry on the Blue Abroad, chatting about the review of the Cats game, and we spoke about it. We said, like, is this the turning point? Do you have hope? And, you know, there was an element of me that was like, yes, I'm optimistic, but no, you can't be. You can't be overly optimistic because it's Carlton at the end of the day. And we've seen this. We've seen this script. We've seen this story, this film so many times before. And again, it's happened. Where to from here? Well, we will, of course, come back with a bit of a preview of our next encounter against the Saints. Bit of a danger game. The Saints have found some form, to their credit. But we find ourselves in a different scenario with the Saints because we're facing them at the MCG and not at their traditional ground at Marvel, where even though it's our home game, it's really their home game. So we have a little bit of an advantage here. Will we grasp it? Will we take it? Will we recapture that form that we showed against the Cats, against a quality team? Can we even do it like we did against North Melbourne? West Coast, we can discount because that was just a terrible win. And we won in a game that we probably would have lost had we played that same way against a Brisbane or a GWS or so on and so forth. So we'll leave things there, but just not good enough. But at least, I mean, there's a positive here. We've shown that we can go back to the well and, you know, recapture some sort of, you know, top flight form. We saw it against the Cats. We can do it. But, you know, what's the secret tonic? I don't know. I honestly do not know. Anyway, we'll leave things there, ladies and gents. Let us know your thoughts, as always, in the comment section down below. I'm always keen to hear your thoughts and just vent as well. It's a nice little platform for us to get together and just really, you know, shoot the shit, so to speak. So let us know your thoughts down below. We will be back, of course, to preview the St Kilda game and analyse that to the nth degree. So with that, thank you, as always, for tuning in. Really do appreciate your company, and we'll see you in the next one. Go Baggers.
Have you ever